As part of the final exam review for part one of the final, they are 4 problems that you were asked to complete independently, and then check your answers. So we didn't get to go over them in class, and so I wanted to make a recording of actually going over those problems. And then if you have any questions, there'll be time in class tomorrow where you can, ask questions or get help with any ones that you struggled with. So the first one that was question number 1 in breakout room 1, what is the surface area of this figure? So as I said before, you need to identify what type of solid it is, and in this case, it's a cylinder. So then you go to your formula sheet and you find the formula for cylinder for surface area, and I have it marked right here. So first thing you should do is write the formula down. So 2 pi r squared plus 2 pi r h. And then you want to identify those variables that you need. So in this case, we have r, the radius. In this case, that's 4 inches. The radius is of the circle base of a cylinder. It goes from the center to a point on the circle. And then there is h, which is the height of the cylinder. And this goes from base to base. Okay? So in this case, that is our 10 inches. Okay? So then what we do is we replace those variables with the numbers. And what I like to do is I put the pi at the end, and I do that at the very last step. So I'm going to leave pi in my answer till the very last step. So I'm going to just move that after the r squared. So 2 times 4 squared, that's my r squared, pi, plus 2 times my r again, times my h, and then my pi. Now again, it is okay at this point in time if you want to replace, you can replace pi with 3.14 at the time. Okay, I don't. I like to keep the decimals till the end. The key here is that you have to do the multiplication. At first you have to do the exponents and the multiplication first before you can do the addition. So in this case, it's going to be 2 times 16, because 4 squared is 16. And again, I'm leaving pi in there. And 2 times 4 times 10 is 2 times 4 is 8, times 10 is 80. And so 2 times 16 is 32 pi, plus 80 pi. Oops. And if you add that together, 112 pi. And that actually is a valid answer. This would be considered the exact surface area. And if it was multiple choice, if the question, it might tell you to find the exact, or it might tell you to find the approximate. Or if it's a multiple choice, you can see based on what options you have. But in this case, I'm going to find the approximate, and I'm going to replace that pi with my 3.14. So if you get your calculator, and we do 3.14 times 112, you get 351.68. 351.68 inches squared. And that's the approximate surface area right here. Okay? So again, being able to identify the solid, get the right formula, write it down, identify your variables, place them in the formula, and use correct order of operations. All right, let's try the next one. So the next one here is actually a prism, and the base of the prism that I'm going to use, because it's standing, when it's a rectangular prism, you can actually pick any set of opposite sides to be the base. So I always do the one that's kind of sitting on the ground, on the table here. So my base is going to be, my base of this rectangular prism, or 2 bases are these rectangles here. So I am going to go get the formula, and they want the volume and the surface area. So first we're going to do the surface area. And there's 2 ways to do the surface area. I'm going to use the formula, but the other thing you could do, you could find the area of each surface and sum them all together. And we've done this when we did the lesson, so you can go back to your lessons note. In this case, there's 2 front, right? There's 2 that are 2 congruent ones, right? Rectangles that are the front and back. And then there's two congruent rectangles. That's left and right. Oops. And then there's two congruent rectangles. That's top and bottom. So you could actually find, like I said, the area of each rectangle. Top and bottom are 6 by 4, 24, 24, that's 48. Left and right is 12 by 4. 16 by 4. Oops. That's not what I meant to do. Is 64. I don't know what, my math is all off. And there's two of them. That would be 128. And then the front and the back are 16 by 6. So that's one way to do it, and that's fine. I'm going to use the formula because that's what students usually tend to do because they have that formula available to them, and sometimes they struggle with it. So since it's a prism, I have to find the height of the prism. Well, first let's do the perimeter of the base, the area of the base, and then the height of the prism. So since I highlighted in blue my base, the perimeter of that base, that is a rectangle. So that's 2W plus 2L, which means you're basically adding all the sides. It's the distance around the edges. So in this case, we get 2 times 4 plus 2 times 6, which is 8 plus 12 equals 20. So our perimeter is 20 inches, and that's of the base rectangle. The area is length times width. So in this case, it's going to be 4 times 6, and that is 24 inches squared. And then the height is going to be from base to base. So in this case, my height is my 16 inches. And now we can plug those values into the formula. So the surface area equals h height 16 times the perimeter 20 plus 2 times the base, which is area of the base, which is 24. So 16 times 20 is 320 plus 48 equals 368 inches squared. And again, if you did it the other way and you added up all the area of this, area this, area this, area this, area this, area this, each of those rectangles and add them all, you also would get 368 inches squared. So the volume is just B times H. We already found B, that's the area of the base, which is 25 inches squared. And the height is 16 inches. Again, this is a rectangular prism, so you could also do length times width times height. And you'll notice that the 24 can represent the length times the width, and then H is the height. So in this case, we will do 24 times 16. And you think I would remember that, and I don't. 384 inches cubed. All right, so that is a rectangular prism. All right, two more actually. This one is a sphere. So we go to our formula sheet, get our formula for sphere, and they want the volume. So we're going to use this here. Two things where students usually get messed up is, one, this is cubed, not squared. So again, the only variable we need is R equals 11 inches. So the volume equals 4/3 times pi, times our radius, which is 11, cubed. So what you first need to do is, in your calculator, you can do 11 times 11 times 11, right? Or you can find the cubed button. So we get, this is equal to, you always do your exponents first, so it's going to be 4/3 times 3.14 times 1,311. So again, it doesn't matter how you put it in the calculator now. I choose to do times 3.14 times 4 divided by 3, and my answer is 5572.45. And this is volume, so again, this is going to be inches cubed. All right, so again, oops, did I do too many? Sorry, I did one. Yeah, I forgot the comma there. I just want to make sure that was right. I didn't do too many things. All right, and then the last one was another prism. Okay, but in this case, instead of my base being a rectangle, my base is a triangle. Okay, so that's the difference here, and they want the volume. So the volume, we just need B and H. So the key here is that B represents the base of the prism, which is a triangle. So you get your formula for the area of a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So now we have another B and another H. Now this B represents the base of the triangle, which is 6 inches, and the H is the height of the triangle, and that's 5 inches. Okay, so the area of the triangle base, when I say triangle base of prism, is equal to 1/2 times 6 times 5, which equals 15 inches squared. So that's our B, and that's something students struggle with because it's a capital B. It's not a base. It's not a segment of anything. That's the lowercase b over here. This is a segment, the base of the triangle. Here they're talking about the base of the prism, and the base of the prism is a polygon. Base of prism is a polygon. So our B in this case is going to be 15 inches squared. And then the height goes from base to base. And in this case, the height is 12 inches. And so to find the volume, you just have to multiply 15 times 12, and you should get 180 inches cubed. All right, so again, this recording was just to go over the explanations on how to solve the 4 problems that were from the final review, part 1, that we were doing in class today, Wednesday, May 30th. And I wanted to provide a recording because you were working independently and were given the solutions, but we didn't get a chance to go over them, so I wanted to do that recording for you. If you have any questions, send me an email. Come to class tomorrow with your questions, or come to my office hours tomorrow with your questions to get help.